Hello, friends, and welcome. I just wanted to come on here and let you know that the bridegroom has been spotted. Trim your lamps. Now, we're going to read Matthew 25 about the 10 virgins and where that reference comes from. But first, I wanted to share with you what God showed me this morning as Comet Soho was conjuncting with the sun around 3, 4 a.m. So here's where he took me. Isaiah chapter 60. Lord, please bless the hearing of your word. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together. They come to see. Thy sons shall come afar, and thy daughters shall be nursed at thy side. Jumping down to verse 8. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come to thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious. Now, the fact that God is referencing Tarshish here, I believe that this is the same city that Jonah tried to go to before he ministered to Nineveh. So this is very interesting to me, as I think about, it's as if Jonah was trying to have a rapture experience, leaving that city that was about to be punished unless they repented. But God called them back, and that might be an image of the 144,000 going back to help those. I don't know, that just sticks out to me right now. Um, so let's go ahead and do what God, do what we normally do here, and that is open up the Word just randomly to see what God has to show us. He's taken us to Lamentations, but also the end of Jeremiah, chapter 52, starting with verse 31, where Jehoiakim is released, the last king of Israel, or Judah, the southern kingdom. So, verse 33, so Jehoiakim put aside his prison clothes, and for the rest of his life ate regularly at the king's table. Oh gosh, that reminds me of the verse, I think it was Mark 22 we just read, where it was talking about the wedding garments, and the man who didn't have wedding garments on, he's like, yeah, I want to praise and worship. Hey, that sounds great, but I don't want to repent and change out of these defiled garments. Jehoiakim did change out of those garments, put aside his prison clothes, and for the rest of his life ate regularly at the king's table. Sounds like a banquet to me. Day by day, the king of Babylon gave Jehoiakim a regular allowance as long as he lived, to the day of his death. Verse 32, he spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat of honor higher than those of the other kings who were with him in Babylon. Okay, God's going to look out for us. He's going to provide for us, whether we're in Babylon or we're in heaven, in glory. Keep hope. If you have missed the rapture, God is still looking for you, just like the lost sheep. He leaves the 99 just for you. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you feel that you have become. He loves you. He loves you, and that's what we preach on this channel. And I'm so sorry that other channels aren't, because I could just cry. God's love for you is so deep. It is really so deep. All right, so we're jumping over here to stellariumweb.org, and we're going to turn on our ecliptic line to help us see the path that our planets will be taking. We're going to turn on our constellations and our constellation art, because I certainly am not at the point where I can just recognize things by looking at them. Okay, so let's take a look at the sun here, see what's going on. And in fact, we can even look at last night's and make this a little bigger so we can see that beloved rapture comet Soho. I'm going to make this full screen. There we go. Okay, so this is about 24 hours ago. It's about 8:15 on October 17th, 2021. And so we were just watching that comet get closer and closer to the sun. Oh, I guess it was last night that I jumped to. Okay, so now this is early morning on the 18th today, and right there, conjunction Spica is there as well. And this was also something that I was looking at, this asteroid, Feronia. Let's jump over to the Wikipedia reference again. Feronia is the name. We're in full screen. Feronia. Let's jump to the asteroid, and then we will also look at some of the naming. So, okay, what I was interested in is actually not the naming, but it was the number. All right, so I did a search on Strong's. It's 72 Feronia, and it means a carrying away, leading, or guiding, when the Greek, and then the Hebrew, looks like Ebenezer, a stone of help. So if you want to look into those a little deeper, I know we have some people that do that. Please feel free and comment. We'd love to explore that further. But let's jump back over to Stellarium, and we will get back into our full mode, our full screen. And I'm going to highlight the sun one more time. And so Soho is right in here. And again, we don't just look at, one thing, not just a number, not just a name, not just the planet. We look at everything together. And then Soho exited the sun. So, of course, I was a little, hopeful that we would be taken at that pass. However, Soho will come right back through. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. There we go. And we're right next to Spica. I mean, there's just so much happening in this frame. But it's not done. There, Soho goes up a bit, and then it comes right back down. It's right back down here on the 21st in conjunction again. And for Titi, this is a sea goddess, daughter of Poseidon. We've been talking about La Palma, and that's just not going to stop. Israeli News Live reported that that's got a direct vein to, a lava flow. It's not going to stop. So we'll just see what happens. A lot of people have had dreams. I'll link Catherine's dream below, that little girl from Indonesia. I like to reference because she saw, after, she was caught up into space in her dream, she saw a tsunami after the rapture. Now, I don't know, how much after, but that was, I just pull from different sources to try to figure things out. All right, so, okay, so I paused you for a second because I really felt that God was changing the direction of this message. I wanted to talk about Armageddon and the confirmations that I've gotten with that, but I really feel that God is leading me to talk about what happens after the rapture, and that is the rise of the Antichrist. So I've got iPet Goat 2 here. And if you're not familiar with this, this is a clip that was put out by, I guess, the enemy's camp, detailing what the end is going to look like, how that's going to fall into place. So I jumped, minute 6, imagine that. This is going to show the Antichrist coming into power, and we're actually going to see one of the signs in the stars as well. So this is our Antichrist figure. Up until this point, it's kind of just like been bouncing around, not conscious, not inhabited, if you will. But that's about to change. It's about to come to life, and we're going to see that constellation when it does. So here it comes. They just awoke. And you see in the background is like the fall of religion, really any religion, because they're going to come up with their own. And it's been happening, the one world religion. So leaving that behind, and then it's going to flip over, and we're going to see the sun. We're going to see some meteors or asteroids. But the thing that I really want to look at is this guy right here, this image. What is that? It's something that's approaching the horizon. This is a scorpion's tail right here. This is Scorpio. Scorpio means conflict, and you just saw, another meteor go by. Okay, so let's go over to Stellarium and take a look at Scorpio. And I believe Venus is in Scorpio at this time. There we go, Scorpius. Guess what it wants to be called here. So yeah, we've got the tail of Scorpio. We've got that stinger right there, like we saw in that animation. Venus is in Scorpio, and if you didn't see it, about a couple weeks ago, the moon was beginning, I guess it was kind of setting, and the sun was setting as well. But Venus was right under the moon, and it just looked like an omen. It just looked like there was something being conveyed. Venus was so bright, the moon was so big and bright, and we've talked about this in other videos, but that could have been Venus going through the scales, being weighed. And when we looked at the Torah calendar for about that time frame, what we saw was a reference to the ark. Let me see if I can just look at today. I believe it was Noach was the Sabbath that was nearby. Oh, why is this in February? One moment. Okay, so there we go. It's around the 8th. And Noach means Noah, which means rest. So those saints that pass through the weighing, the scales, will be entering that rest. Now, we've seen with other days, or even I should say numbers, some of the numbers that we found, there's been a bit of a dichotomy. Like one means, glory, and the other meant enmity, or a catching away and enmity. So we will run into that from time to time. Let's go ahead and look a little bit more at some of the revelations with the Antichrist. Okay, so back to Stellarium. We're going to see what happens and what it will look like with the Antichrist coming into power. We're going into full screen. Again, following the sun, we see Soho on his way, carrying away the bride. That's what we're hoping. And then the sun entering the scales of Libra. Now, the moon is right here, and we're gonna look at what the moon does. But let's continue. The moon representing sorrow, and we're going to see where that moon is when the Antichrist comes into power. So the sun is entering Scorpio here. And this is going to be around late November. So that's when the Antichrist is going to come into consciousness, what he is, who he is. And then, as we've said previously, there's that moon. There's that moon. And as we've said previously, it's going to come after Venus. And here comes Comet Leonard, our fake lion, the little lion, right after the sun goes through Scorpio. I'm going to highlight that guy. So jumping at middle of December for Comet Leonard, the Antichrist comet. And that doesn't mean that it's going to go full bore. We don't know. The first horseman, with the pandemic didn't, wasn't a gotcha moment. It wasn't like you're being punished right away. And we're even seeing that with the second horseman. Peace isn't taken away from the earth right away. We see the battleships lined up. There's still that warning. There was the warning when, the second living creature called Mars out and all those skirmishes in Israel. But God is so gracious. And believe me, people, prayers are working. Please continue to fast and pray whenever you can. Fast from food, fast from electronics, whatever it takes. All right, so here is the Antichrist, the sun going through Scorpio, and now we're going to look at the moon. So the moon is in Taurus at the end of that scenario, but let's look at where it was at the beginning, and that is Pisces. Well, we've got Cetus here as well, so there's a lot going on, which we looked at Cetus as being the beast from the sea, the Antichrist, but right above here is the church, and the moon really grieving for this whole interaction. We've got the beast and we've got the church, and the Antichrist, middle December, is coming on the scene. And when I saw that, it was very hurtful to see. And then the moon goes into Aries, representing the slain lamb. Uranus representing the seventh seal, judgment from the skies, the asteroids, the first four trumpets. And then the moon's going to jump into Taurus, our judgment constellation. So look at the sun, yes, look at the moon. I mean, there's just so much going on in the heavens if we have the time and the understanding for it. And then we're going to look back over here, exit full screen. And just with that I pet goat scenario, I'm going to back it up just a little bit. We just saw, all these asteroids coming through. So, oh, that one went right in the sea. Did you see that? I'll do it again. I'll make it bigger and back it up. Look at that guy. Oh, that could be a volcano right there. So the enemy has to warn us about things before they are carried out because of karma. And if they don't warn us, those things won't take effect. That's what I've been told. Do pray on these things. Okay, so I'm going to back this up just a little bit. Again, this is iPet Go, and this isn't how I envisioned this video would go, but it is important to get the message out that the rapture is coming, and then the Antichrist will be coming as well. And we see that in 2 Thessalonians. I pulled it up over here. If you want to take a pause and look over that, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, especially verse 3, but I'll scroll it down even more for you. Okay, so jumping back over to iPad Go, we'll just look at this a little bit more. We've got the satanic forces, and they've been harping on this, broken egg person, Humpty Dumpty like person, and they've convinced them, and they're moving forward. We also have an image of the Mahdi here rising, and that is the Muslim uh, Antichrist or Messiah figure. That was interesting. I hadn't noticed that before, that it's rising, and we've got the moon over here. And so there may be, a sign relating to the moon. We've got all of these rituals going on with this masked figure throughout. This may be, transferring from the aliens to the bear, Russia, to this bird, and then finally the mask is off and the Antichrist comes onto the scene. Uh, Exalted lamb, and then it's waking up from its, blah, 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 slumber where it was before. But Exalted Lamb, that channel has done so many videos on this, uh, and how it, pertains even to today with Britney Spears and Gabby Petito, or, you know, and Brian Laundrie, and just the happenings of now. And I'm probably butchering those names. So we've got asteroids coming in after the rapture, and that fits in with what Israeli News Live has been saying, that there are asteroids that will be coming through at the end of November. The Antichrist figure is going to arise after that and appear as some sort of a savior. Okay, so not a good day. I'm going to close with that portion at least. Let's look at Matthew 25, because this is where I thought that most of this video would be going. So before Matthew 25, we have Matthew 24, and we've looked at that a number of times. Many, many other channels have looked at this. It is a prophetic chapter about the end times. Excuse me, about the end times. It talks about two raptures, one where they are eating and drinking and giving in marriage and being given in marriage. There's a number of ways that you can look at this, but for sure, for certain, what it's saying is that the rapture will come before the, the famine of the third seal, the economic collapse, before the panic. The rapture will likely lead to that in part. People are already kind of panic buying. And, that's not a bad idea. Get stored up. So we are told about the end times here. We're introduced to the six of the seals. There's 7 altogether. And Jesus makes it very clear that it will be like a woman going into labor, the beginning of labor pains. Unfortunately, the King James says beginning of sorrows, but it is the beginning of birth pangs. We see in chapter 12 of the book of Revelation that the woman went into birth pangs. She went into travail. This is not war. This is the effects of defeat. They've been defeated in war, and they're under siege. I mean, David didn't go out with his men to fight their battles grabbing their stomachs like a woman in labor. No, they grabbed their swords and their shields, and they went in conquest and victory. It's kind of like saying that they went out, I'm sorry if it sounds vulgar, they went out grabbing their asses. I mean, they don't go into war grabbing their stomachs. It has nothing to do with war. It has everything to do with defeat. The only king that came out of that was Hezekiah, and that was because he prayed. And I believe that's going to be in 2 Chronicles. Continuing, verse 25. This is with the 10 virgins, and that's where our title comes from, Trim Your Lamps. Now, I was a little disappointed, obviously, that Comet Soho didn't, go into conjunction with the sun and cause a rapture. But this morning, God revealed to me that that's the watchman's cry right there. Trim your lamps. Get ready. Fast and pray, whatever it takes. So I've got that pulled up here. And if you want to pause and look at it You are more than welcome. The way that it ends is that the foolish wanted the wise to give them oil, but the wise said, no, otherwise we may run out. And then once the bridegroom comes, those with the oil go into that banquet hall, and those without oil are left outside of the banquet. And I think it's very interesting, verses 12. But he answered and said, verily, I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the time wherein the Son of Man cometh. And that could be interpreted as Jesus is telling the reader that, but it could also be interpreted that Jesus is telling the virgins that he's coming again. Watch. Be ready this time when it happens again. We talked about, the wedding garments yesterday, and I know I referenced it earlier in this video, but I believe that was Mark 22. And it looked like 3 raptures, and there were 3 people raptured, so to speak, or captured up in the Bible. Enoch, which represented the first fruits by far. I mean, Enoch, he was in a league of his own, beyond anything you could even imagine. Elijah was also, very close to God, not at the same level as Enoch, but, at the end of his life, God took him up away as well. And then the third one, I believe that is symbolic of going into the fields and getting the streets and getting the riffraff who didn't want to, pay attention in the first place, who hadn't really prepared. But then God said, I'm going to open it up to them. And that's Jesus's rapture, because he took our infirmities, all of those things upon himself. One moment. And I'm sorry, not Mark 22, Matthew 22. I've got a screen capture here if you want to pause it and look through those verses. I'm going to jump down a few more. And then I'm going to go all the way down to verse 14. Many are called, but few are chosen. So I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll talk about the march into Armageddon in another video. It does appear to be playing out in the stars. I did find a connection with Corvus the crow, the unclean birds, where it says, every unclean and filthy bird or hateful bird is called to Armageddon to eat on the flesh of kings. I believe that will be the sun going over Corvus, kind of like the when it goes through the ecliptic plane and goes through any of the members of the zodiac. Well, it's also going near these other constellations, even though they're not in the zodiac. I believe they're called decans. So we'll go into that. Let's go ahead and open the Bible. Lord, please show us great and marvelous things. All right, Ezekiel 33. We have gone over this. Starting with 10, Son of man, say to the house of Israel, this is what you are saying. Our offenses and sins weigh us down, and we are wasting away because of them. How then can we live? Say to them, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live. Turn from your evil ways. Why will you die, O house of Israel? If you miss the rapture, just turn. Just turn to Christ. And I know that there are people watching this who are not here for good reasons, who are here because they want a drama or trouble or whatever. And these are the people who, even though they hear these things and are warned, they're just going to follow these awful beast system churches, just like they're doing now. They're going to follow the Antichrist, and they're going to have a horrible, horrible experience with the tribulation. They are not going to get free of the pain and wrath of God until they abandon these human leaders, these awful go ahead and have abortion pastors. It's disgusting. It's utterly disgusting, and they should know better. And it's just going to take time before they come to their knees, and it's unfortunate. They're not going to heed that warning, and I pray for them now. Don't be like those people. Do not. Verse 12, therefore, Son of man, say to your countryman. countrymen, the righteousness of the righteous man will not save him when he disobeys. You can't say, I did all these things. How could God be like this? You're not worshiping God. You're worshiping your friends and stupid humans who are connected to the Antichrist. Now, Masons, Freemasons, whatever, they're all connected. Oh, this city church, this city church, oh, this city church. No, it's all the same. And it's all an abomination to God. And the people are just following along like sheep because they're not in their Bibles. The righteousness of the righteous man will not save him when he disobeys, and the wickedness of the wicked man will not cause him to fall when he turns from it. The righteous man, if he sins, will not be allowed to live because of his former righteousness. If I tell the righteous man that he will surely live, but then he trusts in his righteousness and does evil, none of the righteous things he has done will be remembered. He will die for the evil he has done. And if I say to the wicked man, you will surely die, but he then turns away from his sin and does what is just and right, if he gives back what he took in pledge for a loan, returns what he has stolen, follows the decrees that give life, and does no evil, he will surely live. He will not die. Don't judge people for whatever mark or injection or anything. If they repent, they will live. None of the sins he has committed will be remembered against him. He has done what is just and right. He will surely live. Is it created in God's image? Don't take that away from him or her. 17 of Ezekiel 33. Yet your countrymen say the way of the Lord is not just, but it is their way that is not just. If a righteous man turns from his righteousness and does evil, he will die for it. And if a wicked man turns away from his wickedness and does what is just and right, he will live by doing so. He's not unredeemable. Yet, O house of Israel, you say, the way of the Lord is not just, but I will judge each of you according to his own ways. May the Lord add a blessing to the hearing of his word. You know, I had a dream last night, and I don't share my dreams as much, but I have had a number of them. And one was, you know, a post-rapture dream where there was a woman on the news saying, you know, just how thankful she was for the aliens, helping with technology, offering to, you know, take people to another planet to save them. No, it's to enslave them and to torture them and to make them into lab rats. The aliens, they're not going to be there for you. All this technology. America has been given so much, but it's not because we're great. It's because we're just being tested on. The other dream I had was last night, and it was me helping this late teenage girl, like maybe 17, 18, 16. She had been in like the foster system or something, and she'd been hurt by numbers of people. And we found like this sort of bulletin board with all of their faces and names. And I said, because somehow I was with administration, I said, do you want me to print these out, their addresses, and we can see what can be done about this? And she's like, yeah. And I recognized some of the faces, and I recognized some of the places. And then another administrator, somebody higher up than me, came through, and she's like, do you know what you're doing? Are you sure you want to do that? I said, yeah. See, just like with Lazarus, the wicked rich man, he was in a place of torment. He was getting his just desserts. And Lazarus was able to see that. And the wicked man was able to see Lazarus. There's going to be those who are called back into this world. And some of the wicked aren't going to like it. They're not going to like what they see unless they repent. Last night, this is what Jesus gave to me. Proverbs 3, verse 24. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. This is while I was praying about the rapture comment. Have no fear of sudden disaster or of the ruin that overtakes the wicked. For the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being snared. May the Lord add a blessing to the hearing of his word.